So I have what I think is a seizure. I'm on the floor, I'm convulsing, I'm shaking, I'm twitching. So he calls 911. I feel like my organs are shutting down. And then I remember my lungs just like stop and my heart just like stops. And then I start seeing white. And I remember thinking like, you need to take a breath, you're not breathing. But I'm paralyzed in my own body. And I remember thinking to myself, this feels really peaceful. I think my body was shutting down and I was about to die. I really do. It felt like my brain wouldn't tell my leg to take a step. Like, I remember I got stuck in between steps and I was like, hello, take a step. I'm thinking to myself, and my brain won't connect my leg to step. And then all of a sudden, bam, my heart would jolt me awake. Like, it felt like a surge of electricity. Like, what are those things? Defibrillators? It felt like what I imagined that would be. Like, bam, you're awake. And I'm just like jolted awake, like, what? I'm trying to sleep. This is torture. And it keeps happening. Like, every time I try to slip off, bam, heart wakes you up. It keeps happening. Me and my husband run in a little experiment. And he says he sees the pulse ox go down to 82% blood oxygen saturation. 82%. Just let that sink in. 82%. And then he said he saw it get that low, and then I was jolted awake. He told me it looked like I wasn't breathing. And my heart tried to keep me awake to like start breathing again because I wasn't getting oxygen. I believe that's what was happening. We go have an emergency visit with the neuro, and I tell him, I'm like, well, what do you think it is? And he starts, insinuating the whole mental health route, conversion disorder route. There is nothing triggering me this bad over this much time to cause my weight to get this low, for me to have diarrhea for months, for my body to be just completely breaking down to this degree. I have had lifelong anxiety and depression before, and it was manageable, and it never impacted my daily life to this degree, ever. It is not that. I have legitimately filmed this video, I think 4 times now over the span of a couple of months, and I'm just really worried about getting this right. And I think you'll understand why I say that once I get into the depth of this video. But anyway, hi everyone, welcome to my channel. This is not a normal video I do on my channel. I like to try to have fun on my channel and teach people things I love. But today's video, I need to get this out there. No other way to put it. I need to tell my story, and I have pages of notes for this. I just really want to make sure I get this right. I think it's important. Just please try to hear me out. Like, try to hear out to the end, I guess is what I want to say. Like, if you find yourself catching yourself thinking anything along the lines of, this girl's exaggerating, it couldn't have been that bad, this isn't real, like, just hear me out. That's all I'm asking for you to do. So yeah, I just want to sit and tell my story. I want to be vulnerable, and I just want to tell my truth. I got inspired to do this. I mean, I've tried to film before, like I said, but I've gotten inspired to do this especially today because last night I watched Peter Maughan's Coming Back video. If you don't know who he is, I'll link his channel below. I'm a huge fan of his. He has helped me so much through this traumatic journey. And last night, hearing his story, just hearing him talk about something that was very personal and traumatic to him, and like his reasoning for getting his story out there, and I don't know. Even though it's very different, I just felt very inspired by him. He showed a lot of strength and vulnerability in that video. I keep saying the word vulnerable. I think vulnerability is a very strong trait in a person. I don't see it as a weakness like some people do. Yeah, there's no other place or way to start than to just start. So I have a couple of goals for this video that I want to talk about first. Why I'm doing this in the first place. Number 1, I want this for myself in the future in case I forget anything. I am constantly gaslighted and sometimes gaslight myself, and I want everything documented before I forget. This journey has been over a year and a half, I think now, for me, and I'm starting to forget some things. I still have doctor's visits to this day about this issue, so I kind of want to just document this for my own memory. Number 2, I want awareness and visibility to this issue, to long COVID. I feel like, I've been a big part of the subreddit for long haulers. It's called COVID long haulers, and you know, you're in there every day and you feel like everybody knows about it, but then you step out into the real world and you realize nobody knows about this. And so I want to bring more awareness and visibility to this issue. I especially want to call out people who have ME or CFS, chronic fatigue syndrome. I will admit I had no idea what that was before this happened to me, and knowing what I know now, I feel like we have done a huge disservice to people who have CFS, and it's somewhat related to this, as you'll find out throughout the duration of this video. That's why I'm talking about CFS all of a sudden, but I also kind of want to bring awareness to that too, since it's somewhat related, and I don't want to fail another group of people, long haulers, like the public health sector has failed CFS. I hate to put that out there, it's just true, and I feel terrible for people who have CFS. We have failed you immensely, and it is not fair. And, well, let me say, another goal of mine is to be a resource for long haulers. I'll list out my experiences in detail where I can. I'll provide symptoms, my timeline, doctor's visits, what they were like, medicines I've tried. I'll read out some journal entries. I journaled almost every day for a while during this, and I'll insert I'll read some journal entries and I'll insert video clips and pictures when I can. Also, if I can help one person not feel crazy or feel alone who is going through this and give them some hope, then I will be happy. There have been cases of suicide from this, and it severely impacts your mental health, this issue. So I want to provide some source of hope for people who have long haul where I can. Another goal of this video is I want to teach lessons I've learned through this experience. This has been very sobering. And I just want to talk about what I've learned. And lastly, COVID is not over for everyone. There are long-lasting, if not permanent, implications for this. If this video can reach anyone in the public healthcare sector or anyone who's a doctor, that'd be great. And this should be treated as a disability for some. What I'm about to describe to you, what I went through for the past year and a half, I would describe as being disabled. I know some people would not, and some people have it way worse than me, way worse. And they need help, and they're not getting the help they need. They're not able to work, and the system is not good if we are failing innocent people. So that's another goal of mine, to just have this potentially reach the right people. Moving on, some disclaimers, some warnings, some things I want to say before I start. Number one, everyone's medical history is unique. My story will sound crazy to some, but if there is anything I've learned from this experience, it is to believe the person telling you what is wrong with their body. Believe them. They are the expert in their body, and no one else is. I will not tolerate comments along the lines of, "This could not have happened. It's probably anxiety and she's overreacting. This could not have been COVID." My experience is my truth, and only me and my medical team can talk about my health journey and my health status. Nobody else can comment on it. So I won't tolerate any comments like that. I'll remove them. This may sound like nothing to most, but this was extremely, extremely traumatic for me. This is by far the most traumatic thing that's ever happened to me. Number two, some people will click away after hearing this. I understand. I never had a positive COVID test. However, through lots and lots of tests, medical imaging, my timeline of events, and my symptoms, me and my medical team at this day think it was COVID. My symptoms at the time did not match what the CDC listed as the symptoms for COVID, but in retrospect, now we know it does. The symptoms are updated now. It's not any longer just loss of smell and taste, as it was back in the day. The list of symptoms is much longer now, and I missed the window of testing opportunity, and I'll talk about that. So I don't have a positive COVID test, but I am 99% sure this was caused by COVID. Oh, I just want to list all of the specialists I saw through this before I get started talking about my story. So I saw an endocrinologist, a cardiologist, infectious disease doctor, a sleep doctor, an optometrist, a neurologist, a psychiatrist, a psychologist, and a dysautonomia specialist. Those are every specialist I saw. And I'll talk about, like I said, my medications that each of those people put me on and whether it worked or not, whether these people were helpful, again, to serve as a resource for those who have long COVID. So now that I'm 10 minutes in, I will start. So, okay, here goes nothing. I'm very nervous to do this because I've told this story so many times. I've told it to friends. I've told it to family members. And I've been gaslighted a lot by people that I love. And it hurts. And it makes you feel crazy. It really does. It makes you gaslight yourself. Makes you think you're imagining things, you're exaggerating things, but I'm not. That's why I'm doing this. This is my story. This is my truth. This is what happened. If you don't believe me, I don't know what to tell you. Okay, so July 2019. This is when I believe I had COVID. During this time, I had a bout of sickness. This was during almost the height of COVID, I believe. It's when we were during lockdown. I had a few days where I had severe nausea, severe migraines, and severe vomiting. And at the time, that was not established as the symptoms of COVID. So I did not get a test at the time. It was advised not to leave your house at the time unless you had like loss of smell and taste, basically. And so I did not get a test. I will never know if that was COVID. However, in retrospect, I believe that to be COVID. So July 2019, I get what I believe is COVID. A few months go by, I'm pretty much normal, and then December 2019 is when things start to go a little haywire. December 2019, I have weird heart issues that start occurring, mainly during sleep. So I would be dead asleep, 3 a.m., sometime in the middle of the night, I would be woken from sleep by my heart racing and pounding very strongly, like I had just been for a sprint. I would have to sit up in bed for a while and like focus on breathing. Sometimes I would have to jump in a hot shower and like try to cool down, like chill out a little bit, and it would last about an hour and I would be able to go back to sleep. And so during this time, it wouldn't happen that often, like maybe once every couple days, which was weird for me. I don't know why it didn't set off like a warning in my head, but I thought maybe I was having a bad dream and I was waking from the bad dream. And I thought that's what it was, end of story. It was not. That was just the start of my personal. So after a few days of that, a few episodes of that, it starts happening more and more frequently to the point where it's lasting over the course of a few days. Like my heart issues are lasting over the course of a few days. They're not lasting for an hour anymore. And so, you know, if you think about it, if your heart's going 125 beats per minute, 130 beats per minute, and your heart's pounding, it's hard to breathe, you cannot sleep. And so it was just starting to affect my work at that point. I was not sleeping for days at a time. This might be a long shot, but I know TikTok can do really good things sometimes. I'm experiencing what I'm just calling episodes lately. I don't know what's going on with me, but I'm experiencing this phenomenon where I'm either asleep or I'm at rest completely relaxed, and all of a sudden I feel this shock of like cold tingliness come over my body. My limbs feel very cold all of a sudden, and then my heart starts feeling like it's racing. And I have my Fitbit, it's not technically racing, like it never goes over 120, but I'm just very aware of my heartbeat all of a sudden. It's pounding like out of my chest, and it frankly feels like I'm about to die. I don't think it's a panic attack. I've gone through panic attacks before. It just feels different. Does anybody know what this might be? It was very difficult to function just because of this alone. And so at this point it started getting bad. But I would still label these symptoms as episodic, meaning like it would happen and then all of a sudden nothing would happen. So eventually though, December 20th, I have another episode of this happening, but it's the worst yet, and it's to the point where I need to go to the hospital. Like, I really feel like my heart might give out. So I go to the hospital. Oh, and I forgot to mention, this December 20th instance, this episode that sends me to the hospital, was preceded by a few days of no appetite at all. Like, food was grossing me out. And diarrhea. So I have a few days of no appetite, a few days of diarrhea, and then I have this heart thing come back. It's bad enough to send me to the hospital. So I get to the hospital. They do all their tests, EKG and whatnot. They do a blood panel. There were some biomarkers in my blood that led them to ask me if I had anorexia. I believe this was because I wasn't eating and I had diarrhea. So they asked me if I had anorexia. They asked me if I had a history of mental health issues. I said, I have like generalized depression and anxiety. I always have, but nothing to this extent, like nothing that would prevent me from sleeping. So they sent me home with a vague panic attack diagnosis. They sent me home with my heart still racing at 130 beats per minute, cannot sleep. And they send me home with a prescription for hydroxyzine, which sometimes, it's an allergy medication, but it's prescribed sometimes for anxiety. It does nothing for me. It's basically like a sugar pill. So I go back home from the hospital. I still can't sleep. It's been 4 days of no sleep. But it eventually stops. I think maybe that's the end of it. Maybe we're done with this. No, it's only gonna get worse. So these symptoms are still episodic at this time, but like every time it happens, more and more symptoms get added onto it. So the next time this happens is in January of 2020. In my notes, I say things get a lot worse. Again, I have a few days of no appetite, diarrhea, and then the heart issues come, and then the no sleep comes. And so it gets bad enough to the point where on January 6th, I go to the ER again. And it's way worse this time. I don't know how to describe how much worse it is unless you experience it. Like, I've had a panic attack before, but this was not a panic attack. This was different on a biological, pathophysiological standpoint, if that's the right way to like determine this or categorize this.
Hey everyone, if you reached out to me, thank you. I'm okay now, I'm home. I've just been having issues like with my heart and breathing and stuff. I literally feel like I'm dying. And I've gone to 2 ERs now and they just say I'm fine, and I feel crazy because I can't sleep. Like last night I slept an hour. The night before I think it was like 4 hours. And I feel like I'm going crazy.
My heart would just seemingly out of nowhere freak the F out. And it was not triggered by any sort of anxious mental state, no sort of like behavioral trigger from other people to cause me anxiety. The reason I'm saying this is because so many people were telling me this was anxiety, and it was just, no, it's not anxiety. Something is different. Something is wrong with my heart. I'm getting emotional already. Chill out. So again, it's getting bad enough to the point where like I've lost a few pounds at this point because these episodes keep happening of the diarrhea and whatnot, no appetite. So I've had a few days of no eating, and so I get to the hospital again. I have anxiety. That's what they tell me. I had a panic attack, and I'm like begging them at this point, no, please do not send me home without seeing a cardiologist. Something is wrong. I'm telling you, something is wrong. And they don't care at all. They literally don't care. And I say like, no, you cannot send me home. I'm not able to sleep. Like, I'm physiologically not able to sleep. My heart is keeping me awake. And so they give me lorazepam, which is Ativan. It's a benzo. They give me like a 10-day course of this. They just say, here, take this. sleep well. And so that's when I started learning, like, don't go to the ER unless you are like about to drop dead. Like, I mean about to drop dead within minutes. The ER is a complete waste of time. They're overworked. They are exhausted. It was during COVID, so I kind of get it to a degree. Like, they were at close to near capacity, and a chick coming in there with like floofy heart issues and, oh, she has anxiety. Go away, you know? I kind of get it, but I knew it was not anxiety. I feel the need to say right now, like, I don't discredit the severity that mental health issues can have on people. I know this firsthand from me myself having depression and anxiety, and also it's in my family. I've seen it in my friends. It is a severe issue in itself. It should be treated with the appropriate medical care and seriousness it deserves. But I just know that's not what was happening to me, so it was getting very frustrating, constantly being brushed off with a vague anxiety diagnosis. So I don't mean to give off the attitude that I don't believe in those mental health issues. I do. They're serious. They deserve medical attention. It's just not what I had. And I was not getting the care I needed because that was happening to me. So I get sent home, and I also get new symptoms during this episode, which were, I already mentioned the tachycardia, the palpitations, so like my heart freaking out. Throat tightness, it was difficult to swallow. I already mentioned no appetite, diarrhea. Tingliness in my arms, dizziness, god-awful headaches. Like, probably qualifies as a migraine, not a headache. Blurry vision, intermittent blindness, and eye dilation issues. So I started noticing, I'll try to insert a picture here if I find one. My eyes would dilate at different sizes. One would be big and one would be small. And I also had episodes of blindness. I don't know how else to say it. Like, it would usually only happen in one eye, and the way I can best describe it is it looked like Vaseline was smeared over my eye. Not literally, but like that's what it looked like. And that's scary. That's very scary. And it took, a few minutes for that to go away, but a few minutes of not being able to see out of one eye is terrifying. And I feel like a pansy saying this because I know some people go through things that are way worse and they hear this and they go, she's freaking out for nothing, like she's being dramatic, but this is my truth. Congestion, diarrhea, I mentioned that, abdominal pain, full feeling in neck. I remember like trying to lay on my pillow and it hurt my neck. So I was like getting scared of a blood clot or something, I don't know. Chest pain, severe chest pain, shaking and trembling. My body was just failing. I don't know how else to say it. So my symptoms continued after being discharged. I hardly slept for the next following days because they discharged me without resolving the symptoms, right? So I'm still having the same symptoms. My heart is, these symptoms at this point are not episodic now. They are happening consistently without breaks in between. So at this point, from literally months and months later, the symptoms, they're just piling on, they're getting worse, they keep happening, there's no break. I start having hallucinations from the lack of sleep, and I feel the need to describe and emphasize right now how bad the insomnia was. I, before this, was a great sleeper. I loved sleep. I loved naps. I miss them still to this day. I was known as the person that, like, you don't let them lay on the couch because I will fall asleep in 5 minutes and I will sleep for 4 hours. Like, I had no trouble sleeping. I could sleep through a tornado. So for somebody to go from that to suddenly not being able to sleep at all, like maybe 1 hour a night, that's severe. That's dangerous at that point. So I started hallucinating. I remember sitting in the bathtub one night and I'm trying to do anything I can to like chill my body out. It felt like it was just breaking down. I'm sitting in the bathtub, exhausted. God, I'm so tired. And I look at the spigot, I think that's what it's called, the thing the water comes out of, and it morphs into this devil, for lack of better words. It was one of the most terrifying things I've seen, and it starts telling me in this matter-of-fact way, like, not taunting me or anything, like it's instructing me that I need to kill myself. I know, it's scary. So obviously I'm freaking out. I jump out of the tub. At this point, I'm like, do I have rabies? What is happening to me? I've never hallucinated before. I start pacing around my little 650 square foot apartment. I am freaking out, like freaking out. I don't know what to do. I've been to the ER twice at this point. I know my body is breaking down. I'm losing weight. I have no appetite. I have diarrhea. I can't sleep. My heart's freaking out. Like, my body's just not working. Now my brain's not working. And I was very scared once I started hallucinating. I remember pacing, telling my husband, like, something's so wrong. Something is so wrong. Something is so wrong. And I don't know what it is. And yeah, the hallucinations come and go at this point on. I have terrible, terrible migraines. Yeah, really bad. I remember they were at like the base of my skull. It's the kind of migraine that like you can't function, you can't think. All you can focus on is trying to get through this pain. And I made a note here in my notes. I ordered migraine relief stuff from Amazon, and I have no recollection of doing this. Yeah, apparently I was in so much pain, I was on my phone, like, ordering stuff on Amazon for migraine relief. No recollection of this. I still have some of that stuff to this day. It doesn't work. One of them was like this thing you put in your ear. It starts with a Z. If I can remember, I'll insert a picture or something, but it did not work. I also experienced severe issues with starting to doze off to sleep, if I could, and my heart jolting me awake. So this was a new thing that started that was different than the heart issues I was having. It was like heart issues on steroids. So these nights I'm trying to sleep, I would start to doze off to sleep, and then, you know that state where you're like about to slip off? Like you're kind of still there, but you're kind of not. And then all of a sudden, bam, my heart would jolt me awake. Like it felt like a surge of electricity. Like, what are those things? Defibrillators? It felt like what I imagined that would be. Like, bam, you're awake. And I'm just like jolted awake. Like, what? I'm trying to sleep. This is torture. And it keeps happening. Like every time I try to slip off, bam, heart wakes you up. I don't know how to convey, I think this is a legitimate torture technique. To prevent people from being able to sleep, you constantly keep waking them up. That's what my own body was doing to me. I now know at this time what was happening during that. So this keeps happening. So me and my husband run in a little experiment, because I'm living with a pulse ox on my finger. I'm living with it on there. I want to see my heart rate and my pulse, or my blood oxygen at all times. So we run a little experiment where he's watching it on my finger as I sleep. Bless his heart, he was such a saint during this. I'm trying to doze off. He watches it on my finger, and he says he sees the pulse ox go down to 82% blood oxygen saturation. 82%. Just let that sink in. 82%, and then he said he saw it get that low, and then I was jolted awake. So what I believe was happening was my heart maybe was like stopping, my lungs were stopping, something was stopping, I wasn't breathing. He told me it looked like I wasn't breathing, actually, now that I think about it. And my heart tried to keep me awake to like start breathing again, because I wasn't getting oxygen. I believe that's what was happening. So I'm already having low blood oxygen saturation at this point, so that's like an indication that maybe this is COVID. And I'm also having issues at this point where food starts smelling weird, to the point where things are revolting. And at this point, I'm already not eating as it is, so like I'm trying to eat something. I'm losing weight from the diarrhea and the no appetite, so like to have food start smelling disgusting and off which is called parosmia. It just made it worse. It made it difficult. Like, my husband was trying to like force feed me things, and I remember just being like, I cannot ingest this. This is disgusting. At this point in time, I start getting more symptoms: shortness of breath, heavy feeling on chest, throat, clavicle area. It feels like someone's sitting on me. Brain fog. We'll talk about that in a second. Tremors, food aversion, altered taste and smell. I already talked about that. A lot of twitching. My oxygen dropping as I doze off to sleep. I talked about that. UTI pain and foamy or cloudy urine. I'll talk about that in a second too. So I have all these symptoms now at this point. But it's just anxiety, remember? It's just anxiety. So, the ER is not helpful, so I start scheduling visits with my PCP. I need help somewhere, right? She discovered a thyroid issue. It was within normal range, but like based on our past visits, it was different than before. So I had low TSH and high free T4. I never remember if that's like subclinical hyper or hypothyroidism. It's one of those. She prescribed me propranolol. I could tell she was like I'm telling her my story, what's been going on. She's giving me this look like, okay, we got a severe anxiety case here, severe mental health issue. I start learning at this point to I hate to say it, hate doctors. Yeah. I remember her telling me at this time, you have something that is very treatable. I remember her telling me that specifically. In fact, I have it in my journal. And I clung on to that so hard. My doctor's telling me that there's something there, it's treatable, we just have to find it. Don't worry, she'll find it. Newsflash, she never found it, and I fired her. I also want to emphasize how bad the brain fog was. Me and my husband had a bit of a chat about this during that time because he has pretty severe ADD, which is something I never quite understood. I've always been somebody that could remember a to-do list, like off the back of my hand, 4 months out. Like, I'm very detail oriented, I remember things easily, and the brain fog was so bad, my brain was not working. I could not think clearly. I couldn't remember things. My short-term memory was absolutely horrid. I remember pouring the same glass of milk 3 times in a row because I kept forgetting I had poured it within the last minute. I also wanted to read a journal entry to talk about how bad the brain fog was. This was a few days after my last discharge. I'm still having all these symptoms, so I'm getting kind of hopeless at this point. I'm trying anything to feel better. Lots of people are telling me to meditate, so even though I don't think it'll work, I'm trying anything. So let me just read the journal entry. What is happening? I keep telling people my brain is not working, and I don't think they get what I mean. When I was trying to go back to sleep this morning, because I'm not getting sleep, right? When I was trying to go back to sleep this morning, I started doing a body scan meditation with my eyes closed. Relax your head, I thought. Relax your eyes. Relax your neck. Relax your jaws. Relax your shoulder. So if you don't know what that is, you go through your body parts from the top down. So relax your neck, relax your jaws, relax your shoulders, then nothing. My brain had forgotten the task I was doing and what body part that came next. What was I just doing? Why can't I remember? I was just analyzing thousands of data points in spreadsheets a week ago. I'm sharp as a tack, I'm smart, I'm witty, I'm fun, I laugh, I ponder, I dream of the future. Now, my brain just can't, it refuses. This is not panic disorder, this is something else. So, if you didn't catch what happened there, I was doing that body scan meditation, and literally within the moment, I forgot what I was doing. In my head, I forgot. Which, maybe that sounds normal to some, but for me it is not normal. Sometimes you lose your train of thought, you go, what was I saying, and you remember. I physiologically could not recall what I was just doing. I can't remember if I said this. I also want to emphasize how bad the insomnia was at this point. I could not sleep without Ativan. So If you recall, when I got discharged from that last hospital visit, they gave me a 10-day supply of Ativan so I could sleep. It did work great, but you know, you can't use that every night. You'll get addicted to it. So I was using it sparingly. So like, basically I was surviving on my Ativan nights. The maybe 1 or 2 nights in a while, I would take Ativan for my sleep. I would sleep like 4 hours that night, which at that time was amazing. Like, good, I'll take 4 hours, because usually I would sleep maybe an hour without it. So I could not sleep without the Ativan. I have a lifelong ability to sleep very well, and you know, like I said, it's dangerous to not get sleep. You cannot function. Maybe that was a contributor of the hallucinations and the brain fog. I don't know. I do know, however, that it wasn't caused by like my mental health. It was a physiological inability for my body to sleep. It was scary. Walking was difficult. I was not able to walk across my 650 square foot apartment. At this point, I started doing more research on the internet, and I started learning something called POTS, which stands for postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome, which basically means, you know, when you're stand up, your body has a physiological ability to regulate your things like your heart rate and your blood pressure, because, you know, your blood needs to travel up your body, right? And it usually does that well, but with people with POTS, it does not do that well. So when you stand up, you get dizzy, your heart rate shoots up. It's hard to walk around because it's just like, it's fatiguing on your body to be in that stance. So I was logging, I have entries in my journal where like I'm just starting to track my heart rate when I stand up, and sometimes it would reach like 130 beats per minute just standing, from sitting to standing, not moving around, sitting to standing. And so I remember like being hunched over a lot, trying to walk around my apartment. Like, it was just, my body was exhausted trying to do the simplest things. I was very athletic before this. I rock climbed all the time, I weightlifted, I jogged, and I went from that to my body just breaking down. It was very traumatic. My father at this time also came to help out because, you know, my husband had to go to work, so me being left alone during this was not great for me. So my father came to help, and I remember him seeing me, you know, I was looking rough. I was not sleeping well. Like I said, like maybe an hour a night, sometimes 4 if I took my benzo. I was not eating, so I was losing weight very fast. And I remember he looked at me and he looked at everything that was going on with me, and he said, like, I forget how old he is, but he said, I'm 65 years old, and I don't think he's that old, 60 years old, and I've never been through anything like this. I've never seen anything like this. And I remember asking him, like, do I look bad? Like, do I look really thin? And he was like, yeah, you look pretty thin. You look not well, but it's just anxiety. So at this time also, I start having very severe ideation, which is, I always hate bringing that up because it kind of validates the narrative that this all stems from mental health issues, but I treat this as a side effect. I was getting the ideations and severe anxiety because of the health trauma I was going through. It wasn't the cause. So I know some people will say that, oh, she had these mental health issues, so it's clear that's what it was all along. It wasn't. It was a side effect. So I have a note to read another journal entry, just to try to illustrate how things were going. I don't want to end my life. I want my life back. I want my body back. But if my life now means endless suffering, like sleep torture, that's what I started calling it, then I don't want that life. Sleep torture seems like it will be, oh, I see. Sleep torture seems like it will be coming soon once I run out of Ativan. I had to rely on the benzos to sleep. That's why I phrased it that way. Being fired is coming soon because I can't figure out how to get FMLA forms done in a timely manner. My brain fog was so bad, I could not fill out that paperwork. Being fired equals no health insurance. No health insurance equals more suffering. I just don't think this is a mental health issue causing this. It's such a strong visceral gut feeling that something else is wrong. but everyone is saying it is. I feel like I'm being gaslighted by everyone. I'm so sorry for my husband. His mental health is suffering through this as well. It's not fair to him that I can't be there for him. Just lots of journal entries of, I feel so lonely, I feel so confused, I'm so exhausted. Yeah. The next few weeks at this point consisted of like more PCP visits. I couldn't see any specialists at this time because those specialists, I've learned, are way booked out. You can't see them for literally months sometimes. So more PCP visits. She's getting sick of me, I can tell at this point, my PCP. She prescribes me an antidepressant, and I'm like begging for help with the sleep problem. And she basically tells me like, I don't know what you want me to do for you. Take these pills, the antidepressants. And I kind of pondered on it for a minute, and I chose not to take them because I knew it was not depression causing this issue. Eventually I get to a cardiologist. A few weeks later, we do a full workup. I know I had an echocardiogram, more EKG stuff. And I could tell immediately right off the bat this person was not going to take me seriously because literally within the first 5 minutes of seeing me, this doctor said, "What are you doing here? You're too young to be here. There can't be much wrong with you." And he didn't mean it in like a joking way. He was being serious. So that was useless to me. The cardiologist did not take me seriously. There were no findings though. So I guess from a purely physiological standpoint, my heart functions fine. However, my heart was functioning fine at this point on a plumbing level, not an electrical level. So the cardiologist I've learned, the cardiologist's focus I've learned since then is the plumbing. And then there's an electrocardiologist? I can't remember. If I got that wrong, I'll correct it here. There's a different kind of heart doctor that focuses on the electrical impulses for your heart. They're different. So like one's checking if you have plumbing issues, clots. The other one's checking if the electrical impulses in your heart are working properly. I never got to see that one. I wish I could have. I truly think he would have found something. But yeah, the cardiologist was pointless. I saw a sleep doctor. I did one of those overnight sleep studies where you take that kit home, you wear all this stuff, and it was inconclusive because I did not sleep. They wanted me to go in their lab and sleep there and do the study, but like I knew it was going to be pointless because I can't sleep. So if I wasn't able to get data for them at home, why would I be able to at their lab? So that was pointless. Started seeing a therapist at the recommendation of a lot of people. It was kind of helpful, but I feel like he didn't take my concerns seriously either. Like I feel like I got a whole bunch of fluff, a whole lot of like, you have to like make it through this, people are counting on you, which like, yes, that's great and all, but like, what am I gonna do right now about feeling like my body's breaking down? I don't know how to cope with that, and I feel like I didn't get much help with that. I also started tracking my weight because like I said, since December of 2019, now we're coming up to February of 2020, I was consistently having diarrhea constantly. Not literally, remember at the beginning I didn't, but that second ER visit from then on, I was constantly having diarrhea, constantly no appetite, constantly things smelled and tasted weird, so like I physically could not eat because everything was gross. And also, I forgot to mention like those throat swallowing issues I brought up during my list of symptoms. That was preventing me from eating as well. I physiologically felt like I could not swallow. I talked to somebody who is close to me in my family, and they're in the healthcare industry, and I told them about all that stuff, and they kind of told me like, get over it. They kind of said something along the lines of, it's like when you take a bad medicine and it tastes bad, you just need to get over it and swallow. And I'm like, no, I cannot physically swallow. You're not understanding. I cannot eat. My body's not working. It's not a mental thing. So we got in a little bit of a tiff, but anyway, I started tracking my weight, and at this point, or no, I say at its worst, I got down to 107 pounds, 107. I was already so I'm 5'5", 5'5". At the start of all this, I was about 120 pounds. So I went from 120 to 107 in a matter of weeks. And at my size and stature, that was a large percentage of my body weight to lose very quickly. That is supposed to be, unintentional weight loss that fast is supposed to be treated properly, and I'm angry that it was not. It's a dangerous thing, and it was not treated seriously. It was not treated at all. It was not even a concern for all the doctor visits I had. It makes me angry, honestly. So at this point, I started fearing I would die because of my weight loss alone. It was drastically falling fast. Being alone was terrifying. My husband was having to go to work, he could only take so many days off to be with me. And I have a lot of journal entries that say things like, I don't know how to describe it. It's so frustrating. I would often have this feeling of laying down, trying to get any sleep, and feeling like I was about to fade out. So not feeling like I was about to sleep, but feeling like I was about to drift off and die. It sounds crazy. I knew this was gonna happen. I feel like I sound crazy, but this is what happened, so I'm just gonna keep telling my truth. So because of all these episodes I was having, all of this very traumatic things, I was scared to be alone. The heart issues, especially when they got bad, it was terrifying. It felt like my heart was about to give out, and I was just scared to be alone. I have a lot of notes in my journal entries about feeling like my organs are melting. That sounds weird, I know, but I just felt like my body was breaking down. Something's wrong. My body is not working. I feel ill. I feel poisoned. On top of the tremors and the shaking and the brain fog, nothing was working. I literally felt like my body was just breaking down. But at this point, I see a psychiatrist, and I didn't want to, but in retrospect, my psychiatrist was one of the best people I saw. Again, not because this was caused by mental health issues, but because this doctor, A, believed everything I said, which felt so validating. Every healthcare professional I had spoken to or seen at this point had blown me off, every single one. And this was the first person I saw that believed me, didn't question me, didn't gaslight me, and was concerned for me and took me seriously. And he gave me, we tried a lot of medicine for the sleep problem, because he's okay, we're gonna focus on the sleep first. If you're not sleeping well, that's dangerous. So he had me try something called Sonata, or it's also called Zaleplon, which is a class of drugs, if I recall, a alternative benzo, something like that. I don't know. It didn't work, didn't touch it. He had me try, he put me on something called Symbyax for the weight gain. So Symbyax is a combination of fluoxetine and olanzapine. Olanzapine is an antipsychotic drug, and it's very well known to cause weight gain. So yes, he started me on drugs for mental health that are typically prescribed for mental health, but he didn't prescribe it to me for mental health. He prescribed it to me for the weight gain. He also chose to put me on that fluoxetine because he said, hey, if all these people are telling you you have mental health issues, let's treat it like you do have it, and we can prove to them, if nothing happens, that it's not caused by that. And I loved that he suggested this, because I was on the Prozac, the fluoxetine. I was on that for a while, and as expected, didn't do. But the Symbyax, olanzapine is very sedating, I think. At least it was for me. So it also helped on the sleep front a little bit. I remember I took my first dose and I crashed for a while that day. I think I took a 3-hour nap, and I was, it was amazing. It felt so great. So I liked the Symbyax. For whatever reason, I don't remember why, we eventually switched from Symbyax to mirtazapine for weight gain. I think I had remembered seeing it mentioned on the subreddit for COVID long haulers, and I wanted to try it. So I was also ready to get off of the Prozac. This was a few weeks down the line, I'm jumping ahead, but I was ready to get off the Prozac because, like I said, it wasn't doing anything and it was pointless to me, and I just wanted to try it. So eventually I got on mirtazapine for weight gain and for sleep. So then I start having, this isn't really like symptom talk right now, this is just trauma talk for now. I start having diary entries where I'm questioning reality and the ideation gets really bad. So I want to read another one. I skipped journaling yesterday. It was one of the worst days in a while. I did not eat anything literally all day. I woke up during the night to the worst pain ever. Everything inside of me felt like it was on fire. My organs were melting and tremoring. I remember calling Zach from the living room. He would sleep in a separate room to try not to disturb me while I tried to get sleep. I remember calling Zach to the room because I was so scared. All day the next day, I just laid in bed and cried. I did not eat. I barely drank. Zach finally came home, and I just held his hand and I cried. I remember this day. I told him I feel like I'm about to die soon, and he ended up taking off work the next day. I have no fight left in me anymore. I'm tapping out. Yeah. I remember that night. I remember laying in bed. He came home from work, and he sat with me on bed. I held his hand, and I said, I really think I'm gonna die soon. Like, I'm losing weight, my heart's not working, I can't eat, I can't see, I can't sleep, literally nothing's working. I feel like I'm dying, and I feel like I can't get help. Like, what do you do when the medical experts can't help you? When the emergency doctors can't help you? What do you do? Who do you go to for help? I was out of options. Oh God, a bug. I was out of options. I was at 107 pounds. I thought I was gonna die. I really did. And I cried to him and I said, I hope it doesn't hurt when you die. I hope it's peaceful when you die. So mid-February, I see an endocrinologist. She's, bless her heart, she saw me at my worst. I could not stop crying during that visit, which, like, I've learned you're not supposed to cry in front of doctors because then they just don't believe you. But I just couldn't stop crying. I was at 107 pounds, couldn't eat, couldn't sleep, nothing's working. Zach dragged me here. I didn't want to go because I'm at the point where I don't trust doctors anymore. I don't want to see them. But she legitimately looks concerned for me. She does a full thyroid panel because I had mentioned how my thyroid stuff kind of got out of skew, so she wanted to check on that again. And then we did a 24-hour urine collection. She thought I had something called, I don't remember the name. It's a tumor on your adrenal gland. Phenochromoscytoma, something like that. She thought I had that. So a 24-hour urine collection was done to test for that. It was negative. So the endocrinologist was kind of useless too. Maybe good to check on the thyroid thing, but it ended up being useless for me. February 19, I call my bunny day. Again, not a lot of symptom talk here, but I just want to read my journal. So I call it my bunny day because, well, let me just read you the journal entry. Oh, I don't mention the bunny stuff, but I remember. So I call it my bunny day because this was during that huge Texas freeze storm, February of 2020. And so I'm sitting in my little apartment. It's so cold. The power's out. So I'm like scared, like, what if I have to go to the ER and we can't get there? Because then they're like, I was worried. So I was so desperate, like, mentally for any sign of hope. I remember I was laying on my bed, I was looking out the window, and in Dallas, we're seeing like 2 feet of snow out of our window. It was crazy. And I look out the window, and I'm not religious, but I can be kind of spiritual. And I kind of said to the universe, I said, if there's any sign you can give me that I'm gonna make it through this, like, please give it to me now. And I kid you not, a minute later, a bunny appeared right out my window. A bunny, which, like, we didn't see bunnies in our apartment complex. And for a bunny to just hop out in the middle of the snow was weird. It, like, you just should not see a bunny in those circumstances. This may seem crazy to some, I don't care. I saw it as spiritual. So I see this bunny surviving this storm, and I think, like, that's my sign. Like, if this bunny can make it through that, and, like, to see such an odd thing right when I ask for a sign, I took it as my sign. And I call it my bunny day. And I actually kind of feel like things from that day on did start to get better. Not linearly, but like this. Okay, February 25th, I have my first visit with a neurologist. He's just to put it lightly. So he does some basic tests. I'm still at my all-time like low as far as my health status. Severely underweight, not eating, not sleeping. Heart is, I haven't mentioned it, but my heart is still having like severe tachycardia and palpitations at this point. Like, I remember many nights laying down, just trying to find a way to lay down comfortably to where my heart wasn't like disturbing me. Like, the best way I could figure out to lay down was I would lay on my chest with like a pillow muffled right here with my fist right here as well, just trying to muffle my heart so I could like not feel it as much while I try to sleep. That's how present and strong the heartbeats were. It would just like distract me. Like, I couldn't physiologically fall asleep with that happening. So yeah, many nights. Let me mention first how broken my sleep would be. Like, so I already mentioned that issue I would have where my heart would jolt me awake, but like if I did manage to fall asleep throughout the night, if I was not on some sort of drug, it would be broken. I would wake up every hour, sometimes like drenched in sweat. I forgot to mention that, drenched in sweat, like gross, and that was abnormal for me. And like sleep started getting scary for me. Like, I went from a person who loved sleep to being scared of sleep. I thought I would die in my sleep many nights. Like, do you know how scary it is after seeing your heart or your blood oxygen saturation go down to 82 during your sleep? Do you know how scary it is to see that and then like purposely try to sleep? I thought I would die. I thought my blood oxygen would get so low and I'd just die. So sleep was getting traumatic for me. It was scary, and there were many nights I'd just wake up every hour and just stare at the ceiling in the dark, and yeah, nighttime started getting really hard. It was really scary for me. Anyway, back to the neuro. He does some basic tests which are inconclusive, and he insinuates from the start that I have something called conversion disorder, which maybe that is legitimate for some people. It was an insult to me, to put it lightly. And so I don't really do anything much with the neuro, but I'll get back to him in a second. I also see at this point an optometrist, because like I said, I'm having episodes of blindness. So I thought like maybe there's some nerve damage or something. At this point, I'm reading all kinds of stuff on the COVID long hauler subreddit. I'm like doom scrolling on there every day. I'm seeing hypotheses about vagus nerve damage. I'm seeing hypotheses about microclotting. I'm seeing stuff about endothelial cell damage, viral persistence, all kinds of theories. I'm doom scrolling. I'm trying to do the research I can. And I'm also seeing this thing brought up called dysautonomia, which I will touch on in a minute. I keep seeing this condition brought up, dysautonomia, and that will become an important point later. So I see the optometrist, and he looks at my eyes. He says nothing's wrong, and I'm trying to like push him a little bit to maybe look into stuff further. In retrospect, that was the wrong doctor to do that with. I should have seen ophthalmologist. I should have seen that, but I'm just trying to like push for a little more help. And he says something to me. He says like, I think you're on the internet too much, because I had mentioned like the research I was reading. Yeah, so no help there, not very helpful. Good to get confirmation of nothing wrong with my nerve, but whatever. So then we get to the scariest day of my life, March 15th. Literally the scariest day, most traumatic day of my life. I'm home alone. It's like 5 p.m. And I remember I'm kind of feeling okay that day. I'm standing in the kitchen, which standing at that point I didn't do much of. Most of my days were bed bound because, like I said, it was hard to just walk around. So I was doing kind of better that day. I was standing in the kitchen trying to cook myself anything. I think I was cooking like rice. I don't know. And I remember I turn off the stove and I'm like, something feels wrong. I just get this sense that something's wrong with my body. I feel kind of like off. I turn off the stove, I step into the living room, and then my heart just like worse than before, ever. Starts pounding so hard, starts like the tachycardia is severe, worst it's ever been. My heart, like I feel like I just sprinted a marathon. I don't know how to convey how bad it was. And I'm just like, holy, this is so bad. And I sit down on the ground, I call Zach, and I say like, are you almost home? Like, please hurry up. He says he's almost home. He comes home like 10 minutes later. I'm just trying to focus on surviving at this point. And, you know, I'd love to call, or I'd love to go to the ER, but like I've learned it's pointless. So like, this is the day I was scared of. Something really bad happening and you're SOL. You can't do shit. So he comes home. I remember, I have a recording of this actually. I started getting in the habit of recording things because I was so used to being gaslit by doctors. So if I can find that, I'll put it here. But he sat me down. He's like, what's wrong? And I'm like, it's my heart. Something's wrong. He's like, I remember being annoyed with him because he started talking to me like, maybe she's having a panic attack. So he starts like saying like, it's okay, just breathe, just calm down. And I'm like, no, something is wrong. Something is happening. And all of a sudden I start twitching a lot and convulsing. And it's like on my face. And I'm just twitching. And Zach, I remember, starts saying like, Brittany, are you okay? And I'm not okay. Something's happening. And it starts getting worse and I kind of like flop on the floor.
What are you feeling?
I can't control it.
Hey, easy. Easy. Okay. Okay, okay. Easy. Slow in and out. As slow and easy as you can. Everything else will do what it's gonna do. You just try to breathe slow. Slow and deep. Slow and deep. Easy. What is it?
I feel like I just can't control it.
Yeah. Alright, so we got 99% oxygen and 120 beats per minute. Okay. Easy. Easy. Happy first. Easy.
They're gonna tell me I'm fine.
Let him tell you. Hey, easy.
And he's like, Brittany, can you hear me? And I remember I could hear him. And he says, if you can respond to me, but I couldn't respond. So I'm like convulsing and twitching and shaking at this point, my whole body. I felt like I was having a seizure. In fact, I think it was a seizure. but we'll talk about that in a sec. So I have what I think is a seizure. I'm on the floor, I'm convulsing, I'm shaking, I'm twitching, I can't respond. So he calls 911. I guess he doesn't think it was a panic attack at this point now. He calls 911. And I remember while we're waiting for them to come, I feel like my organs are shutting down. In fact, may sound dramatic, I think I was close to death because my lungs started shutting down. I remember laying on the ground, I was convulsing, shaking, and then I remember my lungs just like stop and my heart just like stops. And then I start seeing white, and I remember thinking like, you need to take a breath, you're not breathing. But I'm paralyzed in my own body, and I start seeing white, I'm not breathing, and I remember thinking to myself, this feels really peaceful. I think my body was shutting down and I was about to die. I really do. I really do. I don't know how else to say it. And then all of a sudden, bam, like my heart starts going again, like, and sorry, that was that was intense. It starts going again. I'm jolted back awake, and I'm like, okay, I guess I'm not dying. And I remember all of a sudden 5 paramedic guys are standing over me, looking at me down on the ground. I'm still like convulsing and shaking, and I remember them like taking my blood or something, testing, and they're like, I don't what's wrong with her. And I remember them say to Zach, like, you should take her to the ER right now. Or like, we should take her. Like, they had the ambulance, they wanted to take me. And I said no. Well, like, I couldn't say no, but once it died down a little bit to where I could say no, I said no. They were trying to take me, and I eventually coherently was able to say no. I don't want to go. And so they're like, okay, and they leave, and Zach is like, why didn't you want to go? And like, there's no point. There's literally no point to me at this point in time for me to seek medical care. They don't care. They don't help. It's pointless. It's a waste of time. I know I would have gone there, and they again would have diagnosed me with panic or a panic attack. I know that's what would have happened. They wouldn't have found anything. They would have said it's in my head. So I was done. So we got in a little bit of an argument, and I remember once my body started to chill out, it was difficult to walk. In fact, I remember like trying to walk, and it felt like my brain wouldn't tell my leg to take a step. Like, I remember I got stuck in between steps, and I was like, hello, take a step. I'm thinking to myself, and my brain won't connect my leg to step. And yeah, that was the scariest day of my life. Literally, scariest day of my life. I thought I was gonna die. I really do. We go have an emergency visit with the neuro right after that. I have recording a footage of this episode. I show it to him. Literally looks like I'm having a seizure. And he says, nah, I don't think it was a seizure. And I tell him, I'm like, well, what do you think it is? Like, I start getting fussy with him, and I'm like, well, what do you think it is, huh? And he starts, insinuating the whole mental health route, conversion disorder route. And I say, like, there is nothing triggering me this bad over this much time to cause my weight to get this low, for me to have diarrhea for months, for my body to be just completely breaking down to this degree. There is nothing triggering that. I have had lifelong anxiety and depression before, and it was manageable, and it never impacted my daily life to this degree, ever. It is not that. And I could tell, was not like taking any of this in. And then he looks to my father, who took me to that appointment. He looks to my father and he says, you should probably take her to a psych ward for failure to thrive. Yeah. Which basically meant like, that is insinuating that my mental health was so bad that it was getting to the point where I was purposely doing this to myself because I did not want to live. I want to live. I just don't know how to live like that. I don't know how to live in that much pain. I've never been in that much pain before. I literally couldn't function. I didn't know how to survive like that. It wasn't a life. Every day was a battle for survival. which I know sounds crazy. If you look at my symptoms on a piece of paper, it's like, well, none of this is killing somebody, but like all together, all at the same time, happening so fast and so severely, like, yeah, I thought I was dying. In March, Zach and I got married. So we had been together for, I want to say 9 or 10 years at that point. We were recently engaged, and my health was getting so bad. And again, not to sound dramatic, but I wasn't sure I was going to make it. And so I said to him, I want to get married in case anything bad happens. And he was game. So we went down to the courthouse and we got married, and it was a really good day that day. I remember we went to a little bakery afterwards downtown, and I was in my wedding dress, which I got from Lulu's. It was really cute. It fit really big, but not really big, but it didn't fit quite right. And at the bakery, somebody saw us in our attire, and they offered to pay for everything. They were like, congratulations, like all this is on us. We'll get you whatever you want. And we were getting a lot of looks from people. Like, we were sitting outside on the little patio. It was cute. It was a fun day. And it was a good day. And I cherished that day a lot. I never wanted a big wedding. I kind of feel like it was supposed to happen that way. I mean, I hate the circumstances, obviously, but that was supposed to happen for us. Maybe we'll have a reception one day with family, who knows? So at this point on, like, that episode where we had to call 911 was the worst thing I encountered, but then it did slowly start to get better. Remember my bunny day, like, and I said it went like that? So that was one of my low valleys, but then it started kind of getting better. I could not tell you why, did not do anything specific. I know somebody's gonna ask, like, what did you do? Time. That's all I did, time. I waited a lot. I remember I had to start work back up. My FMLA had ran out, and I was really scared to start back. But thankfully, my job has been so incredibly understanding. I feel like if I had any other job, any other employer, I would have been fired a long time ago. But they were just like, just take whatever time you need. Like, take care of yourself. Go to your doctor's appointments. Don't worry. And I'm so grateful to them. And it makes me wonder, like, if I didn't have a great job, if I didn't have savings, if I had to work 2 hourly jobs to make ends meet, like, I would have been And I hate that we live in a country where that happens, to where innocent people have to lose their jobs, lose their safety nets, if there was any, because of illness. And I know some people will say things like, well, you can prevent illness, like live a healthy lifestyle. Like, no, sometimes things happen and it's out of your control and you don't see it coming. You couldn't have done anything to prevent it. There's no lifestyle to prevent this, and nobody should have to lose their job or like not be able to get the care they need because of a failed system in this country. Which now I've pretty much let my political affiliations be known on this channel, which I didn't know if I wanted to do, but that's how I feel. April 2020, I have a visit with a dysautonomia specialist. This was a pivotal moment for me because this was, if you're on the subreddit for COVID long haulers, it's kind of a common joke that, it's kind of a common joke that all the imaging, all the lab tests, everything from you get done at a doctor's office is phenomenal. It's perfect. No indication of anything wrong. You're healthy as a horse. It's kind of a joke in the community. And so I was expecting to go to this and be like let down, but it was pivotal because I went to this appointment and they found something. So I'll put some pictures here. I had a tilt table test done, which is done for POTS, like I brought up before. And while that test was inconclusive, I didn't technically have POTS from a clinical diagnosis standpoint. I'll have to insert something here because I cannot remember, but there were some tests that showed I have evidence of dysautonomia.
So I got my test results back from the doctor I saw a few weeks ago for autonomic testing, which is the testing they do on the part of your nervous system that is just supposed to work involuntarily. And they found something. Let me read it. It says I could have postganglionic cholinergic dysautonomia or autoimmune cholinergic autonomic neuropathy, which, from the research I've done, there's basically words in there saying that the neurotransmitter acetylcholine, I think that's how you say it, it's not being transmitted properly as a neurotransmitter between my nerve cells. And acetylcholine in your body helps regulate things like sleep. Sorry, I got cut off. So I was saying acetylcholine as a neurotransmitter in your body, hi honey, it acts to help regulate your sleep. That could explain my insomnia I had out of the blue. Digestion, urination, blood pressure, eyesight, memory, motor control of your movements and your muscles, all sorts of things. So literally all of the symptoms I've had could be explained by that. And it's just, I feel relieved because I've had so many people treat me like this was in my head and it was just anxiety, and now I have proof it's not. And basically the two types of dysautonomia they were saying I could have, one could be autoimmune, so my body's attacking itself, or it could be from after a virus.
And the guy I was seeing was one of the top dysautonomia specialists in the entire country, and there's not a lot. There's not many people you can see for that. And I got to talk to him, it was great, and he said like we talked about COVID and if COVID could cause dysautonomia. And he said, like, yeah, we have seen a lot of cases where dysautonomia can be autoimmune or it can be caused by a virus. We've seen that a lot. So after talking with the dysautonomia specialist and doing my research I had done and seeing a lot of the symptoms today being updated for COVID that matched what I went through, especially for long COVID, I know it was COVID. I don't need a test. A positive test. I know it was COVID that did this to me. So from that point on, after the dysautonomia visit, I slowly started getting better to the point I'm at now. And I can't remember if I mentioned at the beginning, but I'm doing much better now. And that's why I wanted to make this video for maybe anybody who is long hauling right now and needs a little glimmer of hope. Like, I was so bad, but I'm doing much better now, and there's no reason you can't too. It just might take a long time, unfortunately. I have a new diagnosis of interstitial cystitis as well. I've seen a urologist in the past few months because, like I mentioned, I've had UTI pain coming from all this and foamy and cloudy urine, and I've never had a UTI during this time. But I have very severe pain in that regard. And after the visit with the urologist, he diagnosed me with that. So I have a new diagnosis after all this. I would say I formally have PTSD from this. I have many days where something just triggers a memory, flashback, and I just cry. I'm so scared of it getting that bad again. But I can't live in fear all the time, and I eventually have to accept the life I've been given now and live my life. Like, I can't live in the past all the time. I still have symptoms to this day. But nothing like that huge list I mentioned. The only things I still struggle with to this day are still sleep problems. It's not near as bad as before. I can get a good night of sleep, but my sleep has never been the same as it was before. Like I said, I used to be a great sleeper. Like, I would be able to sleep in on a weekend for like 12 hours. It was great. Today, that does not happen. I get on average 6 to 7 hours of sleep, and that's with the aid of a drug I am permanently on called amitriptyline. I switched to that from the mirtazapine because the mirtazapine it made me fluffy, which that's another thing I want to talk about. I'm having some problems accepting my body as it is now, which like, that's so difficult for me because this was very sobering with regard to how I treat my body. So like before all this, I used to be so hard on my body and my like body image. And that's why I worked out a lot. It was not from a standpoint of trying to be healthy. It was, I want to look good. And I was not kind to my body. I would speak meanly to it. And then this all happened and I got down to the lowest weight ever. I hadn't been that since intermediate school. And like during the pitfalls of this experience, or during the valleys, I learned the lesson that you need to be kind to yourself, you need to be kind to your body, and a healthy body is a good body, not a good looking body. And yeah, be kind to your body. Be kind to your healthy body, which I don't mean to say that like don't be kind to an unhealthy body, but like there was no reason I should have been mean to my body before when I was so healthy. What was I doing? Like, be kind to yourself is what I'm trying to say. And you don't have to visually look a certain way to be considered healthy. There's a spectrum of what you can visually look like and be healthy. I want to talk about some other lessons I learned during all this to wrap this up. I learned about ableism. I had never heard that term before this. Ableism is a very alive and big thing. It's a problem. And we are failing the chronically ill, and being chronically ill is hard work. I do consider myself chronically ill now, by the way, and I feel like some people will scoff at that, but I've been diagnosed with interstitial cystitis, I've been diagnosed with dysautonomia, and I still have long-term health implications from what I went through. I am chronically ill. I don't quite frankly care if that fits your narrative of what you deem to be chronically ill, if people are going to be toxic to me about this statement, which I don't think most will, but I'm anticipating this. I don't care what your definition of chronically ill is. Me and my healthcare team have determined I am. So there's that. I've learned about invisible illness. So like I was kind of touching on this, you can't look at a person, point at them, and determine their health status. Somebody could look physically great and have MS. You don't know what a person is going through just by looking at them, and invisible illness is a thing, and you need to be considerate of that. I learned about medical gaslighting. I used to think before this, if you go to the ER, they're gonna do like anything and everything they can before they let you go to make sure you're good and healthy. Nope, not at all. Nope. I encountered so much medical gaslighting, it was abhorrent. I don't trust doctors now. I loathe going to the doctor now. I think it's a waste of time. But I had a few gems that I saw during this time that helped me. And there's a few good ones out there, but there's a lot of not good ones out there. And if you don't meet their criteria, their exact diagnosis of something, and you are like a complicated patient with a complicated health history, and you don't match their criteria and their checklist perfectly, it's in your head. Get out of here. I learned about the value of life and being grateful for what you have. I took a lot of things for granted before this, which sounds like whatever. Like, I'm not trying to be dramatic in any of this. I'm just trying to tell my story. But I gained a gratefulness for a lot of things in my life I had never even thought about, like the ability to walk, the ability to think clearly, the ability to read, the ability to stand, the ability to have health care, the ability to eat and absorb nutrients. I learned about so many health conditions that I didn't know about before this, like gastroparesis. I hope I said that right. Needing a feeding tube to eat. Like, I was so ignorant before all this about the things from a medical standpoint that people go through, and I hate that I was, but again, that's the goal of my video. I just want to bring awareness to things like this. Lastly, to wrap this up, this is probably going to be a long video. I hope you made it through. If you made it through this long, leave me a comment. We are not special, and everyone can have something bad happen to them. You always think, oh, that can never happen to me when you hear somebody's story. It can happen to you. And no one single person on this earth is, we're all vulnerable to disease and illness. It can happen to any of us. And, you know, I'm on the younger side. I'm 31 right now. Maybe this is the average time where you start learning that. You start having more health problems. You start seeing your friends get health problems. You're not healthy as a horse at 25 years old, but yeah, everybody is vulnerable to that, and nobody's special. And I can get sick. I'm sorry in advance. We'll see after editing, but I'm sorry in advance if this was so long. Like I said, I've filmed this so many times. I just want to get it right. I want to make sure I include everything I want to and need to. I want to get my messages out there that I want to. And if you are going through this, don't discount your body's ability to heal. It just might take a long time. Give yourself the time and patience you need to get better. I will include any resources I have found during all this in the description below. And I think that's all I want to say. Like I said at the beginning, this is not typical content for my channel, but I just want to tell a little bit about myself. Usually my channel is fun things. I like sewing, I like painting, I like technology, I like making tutorials to teach people about these things. If you're interested in any of that, go check out the stuff on my channel. I have a lot of fun things, and I don't have a lot of subscribers now, but I'm not trying to do this now to like gain 1 million followers. I've just gained a new appreciation for the little things in life after this, and this is something I just want to do for fun. I want to connect with people and share my love of these things. So if you like that stuff, feel free to check it out and subscribe. And oh, I also want to say, if you are going through this and you want somebody to talk to, if you feel alone, I don't want anybody feeling as alone as I felt. Please reach out to me. Is there a way to DM on YouTube? I don't know. I'll figure that out. Comment or something, and I'll figure out how to connect with you. I'm happy to talk with anybody that feels alone. So I think I got everything I want in this video. So that's going to be it for this one. Thank you. If you made it this far, thank you for watching and hearing my story.